Hi, welcome to Secure Supplies. This video is to introduce you to some of our new products. We have split gas titanium 24 volt cells which can be installed on all domestic vehicles up to 10 litres. We can put them in as single cells. They're plug and play. They can run on 12 volt, 24 volt or 36 volt or 48 volt. They come as a kit. They can be shipped within 5 days. They have appropriate gauges and cabling all pre-cut. The cells are titanium membrane split gas cells which will produce a pure hydrogen gas and a pure oxygen gas. The gauges will give you temperature, amp and freezing monitoring. We can pack these cells and send to you in format of twin cell, quad cell or single cell. So we qualify a few things before we send it to you, like the gasoline type, fuel or diesel, the engine size, and if it's aspirated or turbocharged. This helps us recommend to you the best solution to have the most fuel efficiency gain and save emissions. These kits are first of their kind due to the fact that they can be made in mass quantity. They are high quality, they're German manufactured in the engineering, and we pack every unit by hand and pre-test by hand. The titanium is used because it is a catalyst to help reduce the amp load within the cell. So it gives an amp running of around 13 amps on 24 volt, and we will express delivery to you. Payment is PayPal. Here's a short video.
This is the Quantum Antebellum. This is a 24 volt cell for trucks and marine use with 10 neutral plates. Take a look closer. It is like a volcano, just spewing out hydrogen to the left and oxygen to the right. Now watch very quickly. Here's the flame.
The flame is about 3 to 4 inch.
And it's being filmed into the light.
Okay, thanks. Well, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to the starter products. Those ones are for domestic. We get a lot of inquiries about larger engines over 10 litre, from 10 litre to 60 to 80 litre. Typically these engines are electrical generation engines or marine engines, mostly diesel turbocharged engines. We like to recommend that you offset the power for the cells with either water, wind or solar to produce the hydrogen. But these engines can now be meter fed at certain RPMs or as a prime fuel, both LPG and or hydrogen. We say LPG because some people have huge engines, and in those cases we would say that, you know, LPG is an option depending on the size. If you're talking 200 litre engines, you really need to look at another prime fuel until hydrogen advances more. For small engines from 10 litre to 30 litre, we can run exclusively on hydrogen. They can be shipped to you as an engine which you can connect. They can be spec'd to CAT or any other mainstream engine. We convert the engine's head and we put spark and ignition timing on the engine, and we pre-configure it to run exclusively on compressed hydrogen from a tank. We can install, design and offer different solutions as a fueling station. If you're a mine, if you're a large fleet of service vehicles, you might want to put in a solar powered tank filling hydrogen station. Then you can have a variety of your standard engines converted to hydrogen. This is fantastic for the genset world because, for obvious reasons, you can have a near zero running cost, and it can run from renewables such as solar, wind or water turbine. Such engines range from around $15,000 now, and they can go up from there depending on the kilowatt. The minimum kilowatt we produce is 100 kilowatt. For fleet, we have our main domestic unit, but we also can do industrial fleet. So in these cases we have special units designed specifically for people like the cement industry, mining industry, and these units are what I would call hardcore. They are vibration proof, heat proof, they have pressure tank, and they allow long running in harsh conditions with high moisture or high dust. These are particularly good for long haul trucks or fleet carrying trucks, something where you want to drop the cost right across a multinational fleet. Pepsi is the example everybody talks about. They huge saving in 12 months, over $3 million in one area on fuel savings by swapping their fleet to a hybrid HHO injection system. But it can also work for government fleets, fire fleets, service fleets, electrical service fleets, mining fleets, emergency vehicles. It can work for domestic fleets, things like food trucks, freight carriers, and then of course we always go back to mining. Some of the mining vehicles are running huge voltage on their vehicles, 48 volt up, and in these cases we can offer a fueling station. During my career I've had the pleasure of working around some of the largest wet and dry cement plants and cement operators. They've taught me a lot about fuel efficiency savings and sustainability programs and corporate responsibility. All of these things fall under these new hydrogen industry products. They can give you the edge. They can make you seem to be green. They can allow you to put back to the community. They can save you costs. They can cut back emissions. And the technology can flow through to things like boilers, kilns, and secondary businesses. It's surprising how many people run on diesel. Diesel is probably one of the worst fuels we can use. The best efficiency is around 78%, which means close to 30 to 40% of the diesel is going straight to waste into the air we breathe. And I don't know about you, but it's getting harder and harder to breathe in Asia, and a lot of that is going right around the world now. So we really need, with all these new trucks and new vehicles coming on the road around the world, to ensure that we cut back on diesel emission. More and more mining companies are joining us, mostly because if they get a green stamp they can apply for separate special funding for their projects or gain a special waiver from the government. These things can be done. We can install things like larger containerized gas production. You can use some of the oxygen to aerate your leach tanks in gold mining. or you might want to do some blending with some of the ammonia gases which you already have on site. We can show you some of that. And those types of systems normally are connected to whatever renewable resources we can put in place. Some of them are battery banks, some of them are solar, some of them are water turbines or wind turbines. Of course, it's not perfectly zero running costs, but it's a huge offset for your diesel. If you're running 4 to 10 diesel engines for electricity, it will definitely offset your cost. This same method can be used right through for boilers, kiln and furnace, electric generation, incinerators or kilns like cement kilns, drying kilns for powder coating, or ceramic kilns. These things I've had a lot of exposure with, especially around the cement industry in Asia, for fire and clinker. We have some specialized builders who work with us who experience with boilers and other types of adaptations of these systems. What we know is hydrogen burns a lot differently. It's not a flame which has a radiant heat. It's a flame which will heat a surface a lot faster. So some changes have to be done or pre-planned with a site survey before we send you these types of products, mostly due to the huge litre per minute flow rates of the fuels. We don't recommend blending fuels with hydrogen. We recommend direct replacement. If you want to inject hydrogen with the oxygen content, it will help a lot because the oxygen will encapsulate a lot of the NOx and SOx emissions, and that will definitely have a great effect. But to adjust the fuel cost, we will need to make some basic modifications. These include thermal exchange plates within the center of the boiler. So, are you already in the boiler industry and you're more than capable of doing a lot of this work yourself and just need a partnership and advice on some of the techniques and additional products? By all means, contact us. It's a big world and we need a lot of technicians and experienced people with established client bases to apply some of this technology. The gains are great, shorter preheat times, shorter on times, cutting back the fuel costs, clean air emissions. There's many great bonuses to resell your clients on this technology. Anybody who's paying these fuel bills on these boilers will know a 30% saving is a huge monetary gain. So we're open to hear from all partners, boiler makers, boiler fitters, boiler services, boiler renovators, any service technicians or people generally just want to be in the parts supply business for this market. Definitely contact me. You're welcome to send an email or call me by phone. I can visit, but we like to do a survey. So if you can do those sorts of things yourself, it's great. That will help us. If you need us to do on-site survey, then we have a special plan for that, and we go through that with you about what the stages are and the goals are, and you will also have to outline what things you want to achieve and some of the temperature ranges and things like that. In some cases, the boilers are retrofit, which helps a lot. There are some cases where the boilers, unfortunately, they won't retrofit, and that's mostly because of the way that the interior of the boiler is designed. So the hydrogen can be adapted for those. Well, who am I? My name's Dan, and I started Secure Supplies about 5 years ago. I've had a long career, over 20 years, working in minerals as I'm Australian. I grew up around mining, gold mining, ore, fertilizer, farming. I moved into Asia and I basically was paid to go around to the ore smelters, ammonia factories, urea factories, and trade fertilizer ore, iron ore, steel, phosphates to and from Australia and around Asia, both ore products, mineral products, and processed products, NPK products, and prill products. This led me to source raw materials a lot for trade. These things included cement plants, kiln dust, and then I was also invited to look at some of the problem issues, particularly in China, that they had with these huge manufacturing plants, some of which ran on nuclear. These things are huge industries and they support the populations of the world. I learned a lot about ammonia and urea and how important it is and how important the trade of raw materials are from the Middle East through to Asia for processing and then re-exporting back to places like the Philippines or other countries, particularly Thailand, for sustaining rice crops and other crops. So my job was really just to join the farmers with their fertilizers and work with the banks and the finances to try and get these things on ships and not make mistakes. It was a very stressful position, quite fun, met a lot of people, but Actually, there's not too many people in the business. Most of the people run a province or a country, and they tend to be very stressful people, never see anybody. So when I visit, it's usually a happy time. I was lucky enough to meet some of the people who make industry happen. These are ore smelters, which I'm standing in front of. It's an open ore furnace. They import ore from all around the world. They use huge gasoline fuel bills. Some of it they make. This is an ammonium plant. Here I am in Egypt with a phosphate plant. And basically I'm showing all of you this to show you that I have a huge strong background in this on-site, in-hand, at boilers, furnace, ammonia factories and refuelers and ore smelters. It gives me an insight to the shipping costs, particularly about what happens if the oil price goes up. It affects the commodities which supply the farmers, and that affects the food price. Eventually I grew bored of this business because it was a very stressful thing, so I decided to stop. I cancelled the company, sold my shares. I moved into farming. Went back to Australia for a little while, went around, met a lot of farmers, got employed as a consultant in Thailand to sell food and import food and distribute food. So my job was to establish teams who thus learned about farming, learned about Australian products and things coming off the farm, which I had a unique insight to, as I used to supply the inputs. We then built teams, but it seemed like the more I worked, the more I realized that everything came back to fuel. Even if I was on the retail side, it still meant that the cows had to have feed, and the feed was delivered by trucks. And you can see in the mountains there how many cattle are here. It's tens of thousands. And when the stuff flew to my location, I still had to distribute it, which cost more fuel. And to try and get these costs down, I just was looking constantly at the feed coming in and the containers of food going out. There's this fuel equation. I try to teach my team how to work harder and faster and smarter and get jobs done. In the end, I got a lot of respect. I had a lot of chefs and food companies, distribution, shopping centre chains, and all sorts of people buying food from me because they knew that I was connected. I could get things. I could make things come and arrive on planes and ships and boats and get it delivered to them in a truck, and they wouldn't be late. All these things were great. It allowed me to have a fun time for 5 or 6 years and forget about the chemical industry. I met some of the best chefs, and I became part of the chef distribution of food industry, which was kind of fun with my chemical background and farming connections. But it all came back to me making my guys work harder and harder. The more I made them work harder to try and cut costs, the more they sweated, the more it seemed like an impossible mission. The more food we sold, the faster we had to deliver, the more fuel we used. How to cut back on fuel? Really is no way to cut back on fuel. You've got to pay ships, planes, trucks, and stuff. And all of these things use fuel. The farmers use fertilizers, so all of these things are connected. The fertilizers are shipped on ships, and no matter what we did and how many times we checked the fuel report, it always seemed that our trucks never turned off. They run 24 hours. And if we supplied the army, we'd go in a helicopter. It doesn't matter. So it was all about the fuel cost. It came back to the fuel cost again over and over and over. No matter how many times I ran that spreadsheet, I would still see the same old thing. Fuel cost. How do we get rid of the fuel cost? The fleet cost. Grow the fleet, the fuel cost goes up. That means the product price goes up. That means the sales go down. So I thought, well, maybe I can get cheaper stuff for the farmers to get a better price on the food from my chemical contacts. Well, that didn't work either, because in the end, if the oil goes up, the farmers can't get the fertilizer shipped, and that means they can't make food. What does that mean? It means no food. So this is not a good thing. When we have no food, we start to have wars. You can see some of that started in the Middle East when they cut back the wheat. So I tried to look at nitrogen ammonium, how to make it at the farmer. Oh, and then I discovered Stanley Meares. After a bit of research, I found there was other people online. Open source forums started. People started reading the patents. Some people started to understand them faster than others and started to build. Home builders became prolific. But they soon realized that even though they were successful with their products locally, they really needed some help with marketing and sales. The amount of engines and requirements are global and very broad, from oxy torch cutting, right through to army, marine, military, domestic, small engines, big engines, from countries as far as England to Africa. All markets need changing of their engines to reduce emissions and increase efficiency. Every skilled mechanic should learn the new techniques of hydrogen on demand, HHO injection, how to convert existing combustion engines to run on hydrogen. All mechanics, diesel, gasoline, generator, boiler, furnace, have joined in already. We are all working together to share what each builder can do, promote what each builder can make, ship and pack and get it to all different parts of the world for people to replicate, advance, trade, and basically just work as a normal industry. This industry is new and it needs your support. So the whole point of this whole video is to invite you to support us and support the builders' products which we represent, and join in. Help teach people by getting products into your community and showing them. We've all started. Help us now.